Hello everyone, and welcome. If you're a nurse educator designing your own instructional modules, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to dive deep into formative and summative evaluation, giving you the practical tools you need to build training that doesn't just present information, but actually ensures real learning happens. So let's jump right in.
So, picture this. You're rolling out a brand new, super important training on PCA pumps. Now, you can't afford to wait until the final competency checkoff to find out one of your nurses is still confused about lockout intervals, right? So, how do you get a pulse check on their understanding along the way? Well, that's where knowing your assessment types becomes absolutely critical.
I want you to think of learning as a journey. Your learners are the travelers, and you, the educator, are their guide. The first type of assessment we're going to talk about is like your GPS on this journey. It's what we call assessment for learning. Now, the most important word on this slide is during. Formative assessment isn't a big final exam. It's more like an ongoing conversation. The goal isn't to slap a grade on someone, it's to gather real-time intelligence so you can tweak your teaching and help your learners exactly when and where they're struggling. So, to break it down, formative assessment is diagnostic. It's not judgmental. It tends to be more informal, it's continuous, and its entire reason for being is to improve and adjust, both for the learner and for you as the instructor. It helps you answer the question, okay, how are we doing right now, and what's the next step to get us where we need to go? So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, instead of a big test, you could use a simple technique called muddiest point. After a tough lecture on electrolyte imbalances, you just ask, what was the most confusing part? Instantly, you know what to review. Or you could ask a nurse to explain a new drug's side effects as if they were talking to a patient. This reveals way more about their true understanding than just having them list memorized facts.
Okay, so if formative assessment is our GPS for the journey, what happens when we get to the destination? Well, that's where our second type of assessment comes in. This is the official checkpoint that certifies, yes, the learner has arrived, they've mastered the skills.
And the key phrase here is, of course, at the end. This is the formal evaluation. It's all about summarizing the final performance and judging it against a preset standard. We're not adjusting the journey anymore, we're verifying the arrival.
You see the contrast, right? This is assessment of learning, not for it. It happens after the teaching is done. It's formal, it is judgmental in a professional sense, and its goal is to provide that final grade, that certification, that proof of competency.
And you're probably very familiar with these examples. Think about the NCLEX, a final skills checkoff for a sterile dressing change, or a big capstone project. These are all summative. They are those high-stakes moments that document achievement and provide the accountability that is so crucial in nursing.
All right, so we've got these two very different approaches in our toolkit. So how do you, as the person designing a learning module, choose the right tool for the right job? Well, it all comes down to your learning goal.
This table lays out the differences perfectly. Just look at the purpose. Formative is all about improvement, while summative is about evaluation. The feedback in formative is continuous. In summative, it's at the very end. The main thing to remember is they are not interchangeable. They serve completely different but equally vital functions. Let's make this really practical for your final project. Let's say your main goal for one part of your module is to see how well a learner can analyze a situation and think critically while they're working through a case study. You want to see their thought process in action, not just the final answer they come up with. For that goal, you're going to reach straight for your formative toolkit. You could have them fill out a quick pro and con grid on different treatment options, or ask them to write a one-paragraph analytic memo justifying a decision. These tools make their thinking visible while there's still time for you to guide them.
Okay, but now let's completely change the goal. Your objective is much more black and white. You need to certify, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that a nurse can safely administer a high-risk medication. The stakes are much higher, and that means your tools have to be different. For a goal like this, you have to use summative tools. A direct, hands-on, practical exam is non-negotiable. A final exam that includes dosage calculations provides concrete proof of their knowledge. See, this isn't about guiding the learning process anymore, it's about validating that critical final outcome.
So now, let's zoom out. These individual assessments we've been talking about, they're all pieces of a much bigger puzzle. And that puzzle is the professional practice of evaluating your own instructional design. It's not just about evaluating the student, it's about evaluating the effectiveness of the very module you created.
And this quote right here is everything. As a professional, you don't build an entire course and only ask if it worked after it's over. Real evaluation is your constant companion, helping you make sure what you're building is effective and on target from the very first day.
This cycle shows you exactly what we mean. Evaluation isn't just the last step. Look at this. It's happening during your initial analysis, during the design phase, during development, all the way through. It's a constant loop of improvement.
And surprise, surprise, just like with student assessment, there are two kinds of program evaluation. Formative evaluation of your module is all about improvement. It asks the question, how can we make this thing better? Summative evaluation is about judgment and accountability. It asks that big final question, did this actually work?
So how can you do this for your own projects? Honestly, it can be really simple. Grab a trusted colleague and ask for a peer review on your scenario. Sit with one single learner and have them think aloud as they go through your module. Or, the gold standard, run a small pilot test. These formative steps will save you so much trouble later on. The output from all this great evaluation work shouldn't just be a mental note. A true professional documents it, maybe in a simple revision plan like this one. It clearly shows what the issue was, who gave the feedback, and the specific change you made. This is what professional accountability looks like in instructional design.
Okay, let's bring all these ideas home and focus them squarely on the instructional module that you're designing for your final project.
If there is just one thing you remember from our time together today, please let it be this. Formative assessment is how you improve learning while it's happening. Summative assessment is how you prove learning happened at the end. They're not competing ideas, they're partners. And to build a truly great learning module, you absolutely need both.
So as you're finalizing your project, I'm going to leave you with one last question to really guide your work. When it's all said and done, what is the single most important question that your final summative assessment must be able to answer to prove without a doubt that the learning you intended actually took place? Nailing that answer is the key to your success.